Hello and welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm the Campaign Marketing Manager here at eLearning Brothers. Today we're going to be talking about creating a lifelike virtual office environment in CenarioVR or in virtual reality. For those of you that watch The Simpsons, this is where Troy McClure would say, now let's talk about CenarioVR. So, because this is, it does these things. It creates virtual reality training very simply and very easy. And the way we're going to talk about this is obviously about how we built the ELBX Virtual Expo, which was a really, really cool VR course that we built specifically for an event to make it feel like you were there, to give you a virtual reality experience. And it was really, really cool. All right, so what you're going to talk about, what we're going to see today, different ways that we acquired the 360-degree environments. There were two different ways that we did this for ELBX. You're going to see how you can deploy your VR training and what you'll need to be aware of for each one. And I had mentioned, on a desktop, on a Google Cardboard, or on a VR headset. So we'll talk about the pros and cons and the cost of each of those and what you need to consider when you're developing those. And Alan's going to have some great comments on that. And then we're going to take a deep dive into the ELBX Online 2020 Expo. Just like the webinar title says, we're going to talk about how to create a lifelike virtual office environment, which was a part of the Expo. And we'll get to that quick, where we can spend most of our time there. Okay, so capturing 360-degree environments. You can, like I said, you really can do it with a mobile phone. If you have a mobile phone that has a camera on it, and it's a smartphone where you can use apps and stuff, you can capture a 360-degree spherical environment. There are free options. You can do this for free. If you've already paid your money for your phone, you don't need to buy more software to capture an environment. You can get, if you're on an iPhone, you can get the Google Street View app, which is free and will capture these environments, and then it will save it. Actually, I think it emails it to you. Once you have it captured, it says, we'll stitch this together and email it to you as one picture. And then you email it to yourself, and that's free. If you're on an Android and you're running Jelly Bean or newer for the OS, you can use on your phone, it's called Photosphere mode. It does the same thing. If your phone doesn't have Photosphere mode, you can also download the Google Street View app, which works great. So you can capture that way. And again, this is no additional purchase other than your phone. The other way to capture it is with a 360-degree camera. The ones we have here are the Ryko something, I don't remember what it's called, and then the Zoom Max, not Zoom, GoPro Max, which is really, really cool. That's the one that we bought. There's some pros and cons to buying these. So the pros, it captures video. If you're doing your capture on your phone, you're not going to be able to capture moving parts inside of that. It'll just take a bunch of stills, because what you're doing is you're just taking pictures. Take a picture here, and I take a picture here, and I take a picture here, and a picture here, and then the software is going to stitch that together to make it a spherical image. And if you have movement in that, it's going to look wonky. But with these, it captures all at once, and it can record even movement, which is great. It's also a clean capture. So with the mobile ones, you're stitching pictures together, and the software or you are smoothing that out. With these, there's just two pictures that it's putting together, and their software is very, very good. So it's a much cleaner capture. The cons is that they do cost money. The Zoom, I don't know why I keep saying Zoom. The GoPro Max costs around $500, so that's an additional cost if you're going to use that. And the other con is that it can be difficult to use, because you're going to have to learn a new set of software to get those pictures off of the camera and then into like a JPEG or a PNG or something that's readable by the CenarioVR. And the videos also will take a little bit of processing, because it's capturing them in a very large 360-degree format, and you're trying to put them together into something that can be wrapped. So again, whether that's a break or not for using the cameras is a great way to go. They just cost money, and they have a slight challenge. So that's something to consider as you're moving down that route. The other way to capture your environments is to download them. So when you're searching the eLearning Brothers stock photo library, you can search for some of these keywords: equirectangular, spherical, 360-degree, panorama. These are all good things to look up. Even if you're not going to the eLearning Brothers stock asset library, these are the words you're going to want to look up as you're looking for graphics. And you found the right kind of graphic if they look like this. They're a little bit bent. You know, you can see the world is warping a little bit. These ceiling lines in this building look bent. The horizon may be flat, but these waves are odd. Or in this one, you know, it's a nice little apartment. Everything looks a little bit weird. And the reason they look weird is because when you get into the virtual reality environment, it's going to wrap that picture into a sphere, and everything will flatten out and look the way it's supposed to. Alan, we captured some, we downloaded some backgrounds for our ELBX online virtual expo. Were there any other words that you used when searching to make sure you found equirectangular or spherical, the right kind of backgrounds?
Yeah, sometimes I use 3D images or virtual reality images. Yeah, sometimes they do show up, but mostly equirectangular and spherical 360-degree pictures for the search. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, excellent. I hadn't thought of virtual reality. You'd think I would have listed virtual reality. That's a good one to list too. So that's good. All right, and now the last one we'll talk about before we really dive into the cool thing, the whole point, the whole reason we're here, is how to deploy. So for the virtual expo, we knew that this was going to be people that were there watching the sessions, and in between the sessions, they might have time to visit the virtual expo, and they're not going to go and grab a headset. They're not going to go and click around and then take it off. They're jumping in and out of their browser, and that is a very acceptable and great way to deploy this virtual reality training. You can do, it's a click and drag interface, and you'll see some of that. I mean, everything I show you today is going to be on this interface, on this desktop interface. So you'll be able to see exactly what this one's like. You don't get motion sickness when you're doing this on a desktop. You might on an actual like a headset kind of setup. It can be easily embedded into your course or your pipeline. You can put it into your LMS and just have someone click, 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 click. Oh, now I'm in this virtual reality course and I can click around, or put it inside of, you know, you can embed a VR course inside of Lectora as well. It's very, very simple, as I mentioned. Okay, the other one, or the next one we'll talk about is a Google Cardboard. So this is well, it's exactly what you see. And it uses your phone. You'll put your phone in, and you can look around, and it'll track your motion, and you can really experience it. It's very affordable. These are like $8 each. Actually, I think you can get them as cheap as $6. But if you want it to have a strap where you don't have to manually hold it up there, I think they are $8. It's a $2 strap, and it's worth the $2. So this offers you an immersive experience. You put it on, it blacks out the rest of the world except for what you see, and you're suddenly inside of it. It's immersive. It can be accessed via an LMS. So if your LMS is on mobile, you go, oh, I got to take this course, click it, launches it, put it in your cardboard on your face, and you're in it. And I have this example. I don't remember what this example is. Oh, that's right. I remember this now. So this is inside of our LMS. Accept. So this is a course. It says a CenarioVR course that I put into the Knowledge Link LMS. And so this is exactly what it looks like inside the LMS. I click the link in the LMS, and it takes me directly to this course. I have to log in because it's a private course, so I have to log into CenarioVR. And now that it loads, here I am in this course. This is my very, very first course, and it was captured using the camera thing, and I did not take enough pictures. So it molded the floor together. And this was my home office in March, not now that I'm very used to working from home. So please don't judge. But the point is that it's embedded inside of the LMS, and it was very easy to just click on it and jump into it. And now I'm in this course. So I'll close out of those and come back to this. The third one is in an actual virtual reality headset. And the main difference between this kind of headset and a cardboard is comfort, but also that you control it with your hands out here. You can point and click instead of on the cardboard. There's a button up here that you push to select things. Or some of the cardboards don't have that button. If you buy the really cheap ones, they don't have the button, and then there's a little dot in the center, and you stick it on a button and it loads. Depending on how long you sit, rest to select. So this one is a much truer virtual experience. It conveys the weight of subject matter. So if you're doing a course on, there's one we have on forklift safety, and you're driving a forklift in your virtual reality environment and looking around and experiencing it, This is way more real than doing something like this or clicking with your keyboard. And it offers, you know, near real world because it really puts you in it. It's way more real with these kind of things, but those are very expensive, and trying to get one like that is difficult. I'm going to jump into the questions. I see something here. Does the view of the headset react when moving your head? Yes. So when you're wearing the cardboard or the over one, you turn your head like this and it's moving inside the virtual environment. It's just like if you're in a VR course on a computer and you're clicking and dragging to move around the environment. Instead, it's just your head movement tracking that, and figuring out where you are and how to look around. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, any other questions about what we've talked about here? I've taken 15 minutes to give a basic intro to virtual reality before we jump into showing you this virtual expo course and eventually landing on the office space that we captured and rebuilt and showing you how that works. There's a question: provide links on purchasing these items. I guess we could. Really, if you just go to even Google and you look up Google Cardboard, you'll find a Google Cardboard there. And for virtual reality headsets, if you visit CenarioVR.com or eLearningBrothers.com and select ScenarioVR, there's a list of these fancier headsets on the right side that support ScenarioVR, that have them, you know, ready to build. And I don't think that there is a virtual reality headset that can't work with ScenarioVR, but we do have a, you know, preferred vendors or whatever you want to call them. They're in there. So hopefully that answers your question without us sending out links. I could send you links to my favorite laptop, but that would make people mad because I'm a PC person and there's a lot of Apple people out there. So we'll move on. Okay, so ELBX Online. This was a really cool event. It was, the event itself was fun. I didn't sleep much, but everybody else tells me that it was really fun. But the best part was this virtual expo, in my opinion. And so let's launch into that. Here is CenarioVR. I am using Microsoft Edge because it doesn't have all of my plugins and stuff that might slow us down, but this does work in any modern browser. It'll work in Firefox, it'll work in Chrome, it'll work on Microsoft Edge as well. So just because I'm showing it in Microsoft Edge does not mean it only works in Microsoft Edge. And then we'll jump over here and dive into, oh, it wants me to log in. Oh, because I logged in on the other thing. Okay. No. Okay, so it's loading up. This is the virtual expo. And it's going to start playing music, which is going to be really loud for me. So I'm going to mute that as soon as it starts with this little mute button down here. So this is the first room. This is the lobby. It has a big old welcome message that we can close and uncover. We didn't have to close that, but we can. You look around, it's got some of the cutout people. Oops, I clicked. I'm gonna go back to the lobby because we're not ready for this room. It's got some cutout people from our cutout people library standing around. It's got this big area. It's got decorated walls that match our branding, create training that rocks, learning that rocks, all of this cool stuff. Alan and Stacy, so you guys were the ones working on this. The question I have about this room, we did not capture this picture. We didn't go somewhere and capture this, but we did download it and edit it. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe we'll start it with Alan. Tell me what was your process?
So first I look for, I searched for these images on our library and I found this beautiful hole. And later I asked Stacy to help me with the, photoshopping our logo, our backgrounds. So the keywords that I used for this was equirectangular, hall or expo, and that's how I got this beautiful background.
Stacy, can you tell us a little bit about putting these? So obviously, these graphics that just pop up and expand when I hover, they are not part of the background. They're something else. But can you talk to us about the background and editing that background, building the space?
Yeah. So the Expo Hall just started out with plain white walls, and this orange banner that is in front of us, that was also a plain wall. And we just took the photos into Photoshop and added our branding, like essentially like wallpaper onto the walls, and then exported it and popped it into CVR.
Very cool. CVR, by the way, is technical jargon for CenarioVR, for those of you that are.
It is.
Yeah, I even get confused. You guys, CVR, what? It's CenarioVR. Okay, so that's how we did this room. You jump into the authoring experience room. This is a room that showcases our authoring tools. CenarioVR, over on this side, the asset library, and then over on this side, Lectora, and ReviewLink, which is a part of Lectora to help you. I'm losing the words. It's review processes. That's right, development review. And there's all of these buttons. So you want to learn more about ReviewLink, you click Learn More, and then this pop-up shows up with more information about ReviewLink. You want to learn more about Lectora, you click here, and there's that pop-up that pops up and tells you more about Lectora. You can click on this person, just like if you were at a booth at an actual conference in an expo hall. And here's your options. You can get a free trial of Lectora. You can schedule a meeting with someone, or you can get Lectora training. This is another product that we offer where you can get that sort of training. And the same kind of thing happens over here with the asset library. You click on it for more information. You click on him, you can get a free trial, you can schedule a meeting. Over here, it's the same thing, learn more. And this actually plays a video. It pops up about CenarioVR. There's also a video over here about CenarioVR. She was taking the forklift course actually in that video, and she spilled a ton of money, but because it was built in VR, it costs nothing, which is cool. So that's this room. I don't think there's anything special to talk about this room. It was the same kind of thing. We downloaded a cool room. Stacy edited some cool backdrops in the background, but then these pop-ups and the cutout people and other things were individual images that were added to CenarioVR. Same with the buttons, and we'll talk more about that when we get into the room that we created from the ground up. But I want to show you guys the other rooms real quick. And you'll notice, and I'll have you talk to this as well, Alan, each of these rooms looks different. And as we were building, as Alan was building, making the decision on what kind of room we wanted for each sort of, for each feature room, right? So this is our custom solutions room, and it looks very different from the other one. So Alan, how did you make that decision on what kind of room you wanted to download before you started building? Because I mean, I'm sure you wanted to just do one room and have it be the same for everything, but decisions have to be made to make it better.
Yeah, for example, on this one, we needed a space for to project some videos, a couple of videos. So we needed this blank, wall. So that's what is in front of us. We have this big wall, white wall. So that's why we decided to use this room for our cinema, a little movie theater. So that's why that was the decision for this. The main decision for this room. And as you can see on both sides, you have the two posters. If you click on the posters, you will preview two different videos.
I'm only showing the beginning of the video, so they look the same, but they're different.
Yeah,
they just have the same
they're different. And that banner just disappears when you click on the video. So
this one?
Yeah.
Very cool. And then there's still the spot for the same kind of booth attitude. And I don't see, the schedule is right in here. You want to talk to us about custom, the work we can do, you can click this to schedule a meeting. And for those of you that want to see what happens when you click this, it opens a new window that isn't loading correctly. So we might need to talk. I mean, it's been a couple weeks. I'm sure there's stuff in here that's not super working, but this is supposed to load up a meeting link where you can schedule a time to meet with one of our custom consultants. And then the last room is this knowledge link booth room where we talked about the LMS. And this is more similar to that first room. It's not so much like our custom solutions room. This guy has been to many of these rooms. I feel like he's following us. Everywhere we go, he shows up. Some more cool background work here done. And this is not a, do you want to talk about Mr. John Toda here at this booth, why he looks a little different?
Yeah, when you click on him, he actually has an introductory video that pops up. But instead of having one of our normal cutout characters, we wanted John Toda to be our booth person. So we actually cut him out of his video background and stuck him behind the booth, which is why he looks a little bit different than the rest of the cutout people. But yeah.
Sometimes you just can't fly somebody out from New York to take their picture so they can stand behind a booth.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah.
It works pretty good. It works pretty well. So yeah, that plays a video, and then you have the same options here, free trial. There's also these nav buttons across the bottom. Oh, and right here at the bottom left, Alan, you want to talk to us about these. So no matter what room you're in, this little banner sticks in the corner and it tells you where you're at. So when we come back to the custom one, it sticks here in the corner. And if we were to go back to the lobby, which I don't think we can access from here, but we can from here. Or sorry, yeah, we'll go back to the lobby. It tells you that you're in the lobby here. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I know there's a question about making, like, all of those are the same size and they're all in the exact same spot, but each room is a different scene. So how did you make those the same? How do you make multiple scenes or multiple items look the same in each scene?
Yeah, you know, there's an option in CenarioVR where you can fix objects into your grid. An actual grid will show up when you activate or you enable this option. So you can use this grid to align the objects, you know, whatever position you want to place the object. So you have to scale it down or a bit, you know, make it larger if you want it, but you have to use the grid to align everything. So that's the easiest way to do it. Or if you know you have a similar room, you can just copy and paste the same object and it will stay in place. In case you have two similar rooms or the same room, but you have two booths.
Great. There's a couple questions coming in. So for this room, is this bench or sofa a 3D asset, or was it a part of the background?
It was a part of the background.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, very cool. But it still looks three-dimensional. That's the part that's really cool about it. Stephanie is also on our call. Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat section a link to this expo. There's some people that are like, I'm going to want to look at this on my own time because we're going through fast because we're trying to get to the last spot where we really built it from the ground up, which comes to this other question. How come we didn't go and capture all these different rooms? How come we went and downloaded them instead of capturing an environment ourselves? I'll give the answer that I know, and if it's wrong, you guys can correct me. But the main reason is we didn't have a place to go and capture these in the amount of time that we needed to do this. And we also know that there are so many great environments out there that we can download that we may as well use those. With the pandemic, it's very difficult to try to say, you know what, we want an expo hall, let's go to an expo hall and capture that, or to say, hey, we would like to come and capture your expo hall for free for like 10 minutes, and nobody else can be in there because we need it to be empty so we can edit it to look like our own thing. And then there's a lot of challenge there. We did build one room, and we'll get to that room in a moment, but these ones we all downloaded for rapid development. That was a rapid development choice. We had, I think by the time we decided we were going to do this, we had what, 5 weeks to build it from the ground up?
Yeah. 5 to 4, yeah.
Okay, it felt like 3, yeah, okay. I totally get that. So we had to go quick. We could have captured this. We definitely could have captured these. It wouldn't have been these exact rooms, but we could have found areas to go and capture. So that was just a choice we made for this one. And then I missed where you searched for the Expo Hall. Was it in the ELB assets or another place? So I think we downloaded these assets from all over the place. I don't know how many came from our asset library versus how many came from other places. We're working on expanding the 360-degree environments options inside of the library. I know some of these were not from our library. I know that for a fact. but we are working on expanding that to make it a place where if you're wanting to develop in VR, you can get all of the environments that you would need inside of ELBX, or inside of the eLearning Brothers asset library. Okay, there's no other questions, so let's dive into the best part. 30 minutes left. I think we did this right. I think we timed it right. We're going to come over to our CEO, Andrew Sivley's office, and this is genuinely his office. Come over here. Pops up with just some cool information about eLearning Brothers. How did eLearning Brothers start? In 2009, two brothers had a great idea, blah, 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 blah. Then magic happened. You close this out, and now you can look around his office. The whole thing. He's got his big old brag poster there. We've got our executive team on the wall, and these are all clickable. And it tells you who they are. This is Andrew Sivley, co-founder and CEO. This is John Blackman, our chief technology officer, and the brain and heart and soul behind Lectora and CenarioVR these days. We've got our chief revenue officer, Todd Cummings. And on each of these are clickable, so these aren't actually on his wall. I can assure you, Andrew Sivley does not have pictures of his executive team on his wall, but we put him there, and you can click on those. There's this video, there's this laptop that is clickable. During the conference, there was a poster here where you could click to sign up and enter a drawing. Here on the couch, there's a sit down and meet with us, and this is his office. Now, this was captured using my cell phone, just going around in a circle and capturing these, but it did not look like this. In fact, let's take a look at what it did look like. It was this one. So this is the original capture of Andrew Sivley's office without all of the add-on stuff, and it does have one item that I threw in there, and it's still loading. There we go. It does have this because I was using this as a demo in another presentation. There's a link that'll take you to a beach. We're not going to the beach. Sorry, everybody. We're just going to take a look at what his room looked like before it was doctored at all. So really, oh yeah, I added that too. Really, it's a pretty acceptable capture, okay? Using your phone, running around, clip, 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 and then letting that software clip it together. It's pretty good. It's pretty acceptable. If you compare the two, you can start to see some discrepancies. For example, right here, this parking sign, reserved parking for eLearning Brothers employees, has been fixed. When you come over here, it's a little wobbly there. Same with up here on that ceiling. On the finished version, it's been smoothed over. So it's not like that. The big obvious one, look at this table. That's some nice smooth lines. But on the original capture, not smooth lines. Also, tripod leg. That tripod leg is not here. So, oops. Oh, here's what the meetings are supposed to look like. That last meeting didn't work. This one did. This is what it looks like. So you can then come in and schedule a meeting with J.R. Levea. When you click on that pillow, like you're going to sit down and have a chat in Andrew Sivley's office. So I'm going to jump back to Stacy's presentation here, or back to the presentation, because Stacy, I'd like to hear you talk about what it took to smooth those over.
Sure. Prior to this project, I had zero experience in editing a spherical panorama at all. So if you are new to it like I was, take a minute and watch some tutorial videos first, because they are going to help you quite a bit. But the first thing I noticed when I got in there was I opened up my JPEG in Photoshop and I had no options in my 3D menu. Everything's grayed out. I was like, what? So I was able to figure out there was some stuff in my preferences that wasn't turned on. So make sure to check your preferences. Go to preferences and performance and make sure that the use graphics processor is checked. And then once you do that, go to advanced settings right below it there and make sure that the use graphics processor to accelerate computation is checked as well, because that's going to improve your experience in Photoshop while editing this. And then if you need to quit or restart Photoshop in order for that to update the preferences, do that. I didn't have to. It just took a second and gave me the little rainbow pinwheel for a minute while it updated my preferences, and then all of a sudden I was able to open up my 3D menu. Next slide, Andrew. And I had the option to edit my spherical panorama. So from there,
if you're using that kind of hardware acceleration, and tell me if you experience this, Stacy, sometimes it can really draft on your machine's power and draft on your machine's computing.
And in fact, that's why I took screenshots for you guys today. My computer could not handle running a spherical panorama in Photoshop and GoToWebinar at the same time. So a lot of times I have to shut down just about everything else I have open, except for maybe a plain old web browser, and do my thing. Otherwise, it will, if you move at all or make an adjustment, you'll get the little pinwheel while it's thinking and processing, and nobody has time for that. So yeah, I had to limit what I was using at that time. But yeah, so all you have to do is go to spherical panorama and then new panorama from layer, and then it will turn that stretched out photo into a sphere for you. So it's almost like you're in VR when you're in Photoshop editing it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so some of the things that I used while editing this photo, the main thing I used was the clone stamp. But the clone stamp is really only good for smaller touch-up and seam corrections. So I've kind of highlighted a few places on this screenshot where I used that clone stamp to make those seams line up a little bit better. But the clone stamp works really well in areas that are highly textured. So anything like carpet or fabric, it kind of hides any corrections that you make really well. And then for any large touch-ups or large seam corrections, I use the polygonal lasso. And what I did was I selected the area around what I needed to move, just a little bit bigger than what I actually needed. And then I copied that selection to a new layer, which will break it apart from that spherical background, and then move and modify that piece as needed to make it line up. And then I would take like my eraser tool and my clone stamp tool and kind of blend the edges a little bit to kind of hide the piece that I'd moved, and then take that layer and then merge it. You do a right click on that layer in Photoshop and then merge down to that background again, because if you don't and you start moving around again, that layer does not move with your spherical panorama in Photoshop. Right. So merge it back down when it's in the correct spot first and then continue. But yeah, so I was able to pull the corner of the table out and make it line up, and yeah,
you see that finished result. So I do want to point out, there's a couple comments in the comment section, people saying, okay, so you have to have Photoshop to do this. That's what I want to, so it's, I mean, we had talked about this earlier. If you want to capture using a 360-degree camera, you're not going to have this kind of touch-up to do, because those are going to capture better. If you're using your phone, you will likely get something that is workable and usable, just like this. I mean, really, if I was in my very first VR course and looking at this, I feel like this would be pretty dang good. This is pretty acceptable. This was for a marketing piece and a virtual expo that we knew we were going to have thousands and thousands of potential customers and clients looking at. So after we captured it with my phone, we did have Stacy touch it up in Photoshop. There were a couple questions about, is this available in so it looks like you edited this with the Creative Cloud version of Photoshop. If we have elements, do you know if the 3D stuff works there?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
If I am only using Photoshop Elements, do you know if the 3D options and editing stuff is there? I mean, you probably haven't used Elements since 2001.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Stacey's spoiled.
Oh, hey.
I don't know.
I mean,
it might.
If you don't have Photoshop, it's not necessarily the end of the world either. If you want to hide some of the seams like this, or even your tripod, like you can just like place, you could place a circle on the floor and put your company's logo there to.
Throw that in here. Let me find an example of what she's talking about.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, there are ways you just got to be clever if you want to cover up some of those things. You don't necessarily need Photoshop. Like for instance, on that couch where that clickable pillow was, there was actually the area behind that. I chose not to touch that up because we knew we wanted a button there. So we made it a pillow and hid the mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, all of these buttons take up space.
Yeah.
The other question, Alan, if you can answer this one for us, how did you make these look like they're attached to the wall? Because when I build in CenarioVR, everything's on the spherical plane. But I think you just place these well. I think they are on that spherical plane and they just look like they're mounted because of the way they're placed. Is that right?
Yeah, one of the things that I would like to let the people know is that if you want to have like objects like look 3D, but they are not 3D, you have to design them or create them as using the front view only, right? If like you were creating just the front view of the object, and then if you paste them into CenarioVR, and when you move around, they will the 3D aspect of it will follow. I don't know if that makes sense. I strongly recommend that you create everything for you front view, not top view, not left or right view, just the front view. If you go back to the other rooms, you will see our displays, our booths. Those are created using the front view only, and that's why you look really good when you turn around.
Excellent. I did find an example of what Stacy was talking about. If you can't perfectly fix the floor. So this is one that was captured with the 360-degree camera, but they had a tripod and they just covered that up with a logo, which is pretty cool. And we've seen that happen a couple of different times, just like that. Another question, how many pictures were taken in this office to make this image? A lot. I feel like I took probably somewhere between 8 and 10 of just a panorama, and then maybe like 6 to 8 on the next level, and then 3 kind of straight up, and then the same down and down to make this around. And I did use a tripod. I didn't have to, but I did, because in the smaller spaces, any sort of movement will really mess it up. And that's kind of what I was showing you in my home office, that demo course I made back in March, where I didn't take enough pictures and the space was really small. I mean, the space is like half of the size of Andrew Sivley's office. And because it's so small, it's really difficult to try to get the same correct perspective everywhere. But Stacy removed the tripod in this one. Let's go back to this one. But yeah, in some of the captures down at the floor, you can see the tripod legs down there, and she kindly erased those. So It comes down to acceptability. If you want to buy your 360-degree camera, you're just going to remove a lot of these problems. If you want to use the phone capture, you're going to have initially a pretty acceptable image with some imperfections, like the imperfection down there and the imperfection right here, some of the ceiling. And really, depending on where you put the interactivity, people aren't going to look. I wonder how many people looked at the ceiling in this course. Very few. I wonder how many people looked at the floor in this course. Very few. And you clean it up as you need to, and as you can. Alan, there are 3D objects in this course. You want to talk to us about the 3D objects that you added and what it took to make those happen?
Yeah, if you go back to the previous photo that is not Photoshop, you will see that there is a laptop. There's actually Andrew's laptop. Yeah. So CenarioVR comes with some 3D objects loaded into our library, so you can just import them. Yeah, you can just add them exactly like that. And there is a laptop in there. There's a MacBook Pro that you can import on the 3D objects. Yeah, it's a 3D model. And we wanted to add some interactivity into that laptop without creating a hotspot, but you can use a 3D object as a hotspot or call to action button. Yeah, exactly. Then you move it. So you can import your own 3D objects into CenarioVR using the GLB format. If you want to write that down, it's the GLB format for your 3D object, your own 3D objects.
You're so much better at this than me. I don't know how long it must have taken you to get this to tweak correctly. We want it.
Yeah, want to make it a bit smaller. Yes, and make it small. Yeah, and it will fit perfectly.
And here it is done correctly. So, and you can make it, you can animate these where on a highlight, on hover, or on select, it rotates a different way. So you could make it where if you hovered over this, the laptop turns to face you and make it come back. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. The pillow is the same, right? The pillow is another 3D object?
No, that is a PNG actually. That looks like a 3D object.
Yeah, it's just perfectly shaded, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, it's well shaded.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that is one thing that we made sure to that all of the objects that we were building outside of CenarioVR, if we were building them in Illustrator or whatnot, we made sure to include a little bit of like a drop shadow on all the objects so that when they were placed in here, they didn't just look like a 2D object that was slapped in there. It kind of gives a little bit of an illusion that it's actually 3D when it's really not.
You can see that here. That's pretty cool. These buttons, talk to me about how these were made. Are these the default buttons?
No, we created those. I think Stacy created those buttons. Did you? Or was it me? Was it me? I can't remember.
It might have been me. I don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, those are just
custom buttons easily inserted by saying, you know, I want to add a hotspot and then I want to upload my own image instead of using one from the media library. Although I think those ones we do have, we have that same kind of thing, but we can make it eLearning Brothers orange as well, but we wanted it to look different, so we made something unique. But we could have used these just as easily.
Yeah, we wanted to align those to our branding. So one of the things if you want to import your graphics into CenarioVR is I strongly recommend you use PNGs instead of SVGs. I know SVG are better for website and web development, but in this case, you won't lose resolution if you use PNGs instead of SVGs. And that's what
So that's a choice you got to make, I guess.
Yeah, we made that choice because we had SVGs before, but they, didn't work properly.
Sure, and I'm sure that's something that we're working on.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with file size too. We were able to make the PNG file sizes smaller than the SVG file size. So, I mean, when you're placing a dozen or more images inside, it's going to slow down how quickly it's going to be able to process it as you're moving around in that room. So when you have smaller file sizes, when those numbers start to stack, it'll be significantly less than it would be with an SVG file.
Great. The next question, I'm going to come over to my goof course because it can be answered easier there. Could you do a clickable quiz pop-up in the room with some multiple choice questions? So there is one built in here. It's right over here. What's your favorite color? Green, red, or orange? And I put it for my favorite color, not for eLearning Brothers' favorite color. So if you select red or orange, it tells you that you're wrong. But if you choose green, it will say, that's super neat, thanks for sharing, which is great. And to follow up on that, yes, that data on those pop-up questions is sent to your LMS or can be sent to your LMS. You can send that via a SCORM file, or you can send it with XAPI that will give you more details about the use inside the course. That's really cool. So that can be included and it can be tracked inside of the LMS. So that should answer that question. Let me move down to some other ones. Instead of taking a ton of pictures, can you shoot a video instead? So this is kind of what I talked about earlier when you're talking about the difference between the capture stuff. So if you're using a 360-degree camera, you can, like I'm going to say it right this time, a GoPro Max or a Ryko or whatever. There's a plethora of them out there and they're all great. We just happen to have those two on the presentation. You can, if you use a 3D camera, you can capture video. If you use a cell phone camera, you have to take pictures because it's taking those pictures and stitching them together. If you try to make a video, it's not going to be able to stitch correctly. So it's got to be photographs if you're going to be stitching them. If you want to see what it can look like if you want to capture with a video, come into this one and we'll skip to, if it will let me skip. I don't know if it will let me skip to this one. So this is one I captured with a 360-degree camera in the eLearning Brothers office. So this is what our home office looks like. I added a ton of stuff and it's a video. So if I push play down here, you can see the video. There's me walking around the room. You're going to see somebody walk out of our VP of Marketing's office with a t-shirt that he was coveting. There it is. So yeah, I mean, this is a video captured with a 360-degree camera, so it's got that motion. If you look straight down, you can see a slight misalignment because it is two cameras capturing. So there's a straight line down the center, but they have a hard time with this tripod right below them. But the rest of the room looks pristine. If I was to move this, you know, the seam, we see the seam runs right here, and it's pretty dang clean. Even straight up looks pretty clean. It's just that tripod down at the bottom, it's a little bit of a challenge. So this is what it looks like with a 360-degree camera if you use that instead. Hopefully that answers that question. And we could have captured Andrew's office with this 360-degree camera. I just don't think we had it yet. I think it was in the mail. And I think this was during the old 2-day shipping is actually like 6-day shipping. And we were like, we need that room so we can start editing it. So we used a phone camera capture. And like I said, I did put that on a tripod so it would be a smaller rotation, have less imperfections. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay, I think that answers all of our questions, and we're running pretty low on time. So let me jump back over to the presentation, which I think is right here. So all of this, the whole goal of everything we do at eLearning Brothers is to help you become an e-learning rock star. We want to provide you with the tools, we want to provide you with the assets, we want to provide you with everything that you need to be able to go and build something amazing. We love seeing cool stuff that's been built in CenarioVR, been built in, oh, that reminds me, I forgot one other thing. So when we built this, we built it knowing it was going to be viewed on desktop, not in a headset. So Alan, I'd like you to talk for a little bit about what precautions we made and what things we did because we knew they were going to be on a desktop. And I forgot to mention this before, so I'm going to drop a little hint in what I'm hoping you can answer about when you were building the space adventure game and we tried it on VR versus desktop and the differences in those designs.
So first of all, you don't want to use fixed objects on your interaction or your scenario if you're going to play this on your VR headset, right? If you want to display this only on a desktop view, you can use fixed object. What are the fixed objects? Like the menu, like the sign of this says Andrew Sivley's office. Those are, even this title, that's those are fixed objects. So you don't want to use fixed objects when you are developing or building this for actual headset, an actual VR headset. So that's one
mostly
of the
because they just take up valuable real estate. I mean, your visuals are smaller because you're actually in there. I mean, it's all becomes peripheral, but the real estate, visual real estate, you just lose it when you put on your headset.
Exactly. So don't do that if you're going to build for a headset. That basically is it. The main reason.
One other thing that I remember we had an issue with the game was the size of these message boards. So you can, when you're developing on desktop, you can make them as large as life. You know, you can make them as big as your screen if you wanted to. If you wanted to make a pop-up when, so like when we go to the CEO's office for the very first time, and this pop-up shows up, that's a solid chunk of the screen. In VR, you're not seeing that much, and so it feels like in order to read this in VR, you'd have to be looking from left to right to view it because you're actually in the room. So you want to make things smaller that way if you're building in VR.
Yeah.
So that's that. Any other things that you had to consider when building for desktop instead, or anything that you could do that you couldn't do in VR that you took into consideration?
No, mostly those two things and the things that you mentioned with having the objects like super big. You don't want it super big for the VR headset.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Stacy. Thanks, everybody, for visiting. Thanks for stopping by, and we hope we'll see you guys in our next webinar. See you later.
See you later.
Thanks.